In December 2010, a police search for a missing woman along a desolate stretch of coastline on Long Island led to a discovery that would shock the United States and uncover one of the most disturbing serial murder investigations in modern history. What began as a routine search for one person quickly spiraled into the realization that a predator had been operating in plain sight for years. Buried beneath the tall grasses along Gilgo Beach were human remains. And as investigators would soon learn, there was not just one victim. There were many. Gilgo Beach is a narrow barrier island along the southern shore of Long Island, New York. The area is known for its beaches, ocean views, and seasonal vacation homes. But parts of it are isolated, dark, and rarely traveled at night. Dense brush lines the Ocean Parkway, a long, quiet highway that stretches past miles of marshland and sand. It was here, in one of the most unlikely places, that investigators stumbled upon a nightmare. The search began when police were looking for a 24-year-old Shannon Gilbert, a woman who had disappeared earlier that year. In May 2010, Shannon had gone to Oak Beach to meet a client. She was a sex worker, and like many others in the industry, she had arranged meetings through online advertisements. That night, something went wrong. Shannon made a frantic 911 call, telling the dispatcher that someone was trying to kill her. The call lasted over 20 minutes, but police were unable to locate her in time. Shannon vanished into the darkness, and despite extensive searches, she was not found. Months later, during a renewed search effort for Shannon, a police officer in his K-9 unit discovered skeletal remains wrapped in burlap along Gilgo Beach. The victim was identified as a woman. Then another set of remains was found nearby. Then another, and another. By the time the initial search concluded, investigators had uncovered the remains of 4 women, all discovered within a quarter mile of each other. They would later become known as the Gilgo Four. The victims were identified as Melissa Barthélemy, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. All 4 were young women. All 4 had worked as escorts. All 4 had disappeared between 2007 and 2010. And all 4 had been contacted through online ads shortly before they vanished. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Each woman had been strangled. Each had been wrapped in burlap. Their remains had been carefully placed along the same isolated stretch of beach. This was not random violence. This was organized, methodical, deliberate. As the investigation expanded, police widened their search area. What they found next made the case even more horrifying. Along other part of Ocean Parkway and nearby beaches, investigators discovered additional remains, some dismembered, some scattered, some reduced to bones. In total, the remains of at least 10 victims were uncovered, though some estimates place the number even higher. Unlike the Gilgo Four, these victims did not all fit the same profile. Some were believed to be sex workers. Others were not. One victim was male. Another was an unidentified toddler. The discovery raised a chilling possibility. There may have been more than one killer operating in the area. Or worse, a single killer whose crime spanned years and evolved over time. As details emerged, the media dubbed the unknown suspect the Long Island serial killer. Families of the victims were desperate for answers. Many had reported their loved ones missing years earlier, only to feel ignored or dismissed. Some had received disturbing phone calls after the disappearances. In particular, Melissa Barthélemy's family reported receiving taunting calls from someone using her cell phone. The caller mocked the family, described Melissa's death, and seemed to take pleasure in their pain. The calls were traced in New York City, but the trail went cold. Despite the growing body count, the investigation moved slowly. Jurisdictional conflicts, internal issues within law enforcement, and leadership controversies plagued the case. For years, no arrests were made. Leads went nowhere. Evidence sat untested. The public grew frustrated. Then, there was the question of Shannon Gilbert. In December 2011, nearly 19 months after she disappeared, Shannon's remains were found in a marshy area not far from where she was last seen. Authorities ruled her death accidental, suggesting she drowned after becoming disoriented. But many, including her family, strongly disagreed. They believed Shannon's death was connected to the other murders. After all, Her disappearance had led police to Gilgo Beach in the first place. The debate over Shannon's death became one of the most controversial aspects of the case. Was she a victim of the same killer, or an unrelated tragedy that inadvertently exposed something far darker? As years passed, the case became symbolic of systemic failure. Families accused police of negligence. Advocacy groups demanded justice. Journalists uncovered troubling details about the investigation's leadership. The then police chief of Suffolk County faced allegations of corruption and misconduct unrelated to the case, further eroding public trust. For over a decade, the Long Island serial killer remained unidentified. Then, in July 2023, everything changed. Authorities announced the arrest of a man named Rex Hoyerman, a 59-year-old architect from Massapequa Park, Long Island. He lived just miles from Gilgo Beach. He was married. He had children. He ran a successful architecture firm in Manhattan. On the surface, he appeared ordinary, unremarkable, invisible, but investigators believed he was responsible for at least some of the murders. According to prosecutors, Hoyerman had been under surveillance for more than a year. Cell phone data, DNA evidence, and witness accounts allegedly linked him to several of the victims, including the Gilgo Four. Hair samples recovered from burlap used to wrap the bodies were reportedly matched to Hoyerman and his family. Phone records placed him near the victims. Burner phones used to contact escorts were allegedly traced back to him. When authorities searched his home, they uncovered firearms, disturbing internet searches, and other evidence that strengthened their case. Prosecutors described him as meticulous, calculating, and deeply dangerous. Yet even with the arrest, the case remains far from closed. Rex Hoyerman has pleaded not guilty. He has not been charged in connection with all the remains found along Gilgo Beach. Investigators have not officially confirmed whether he is responsible for every victim, or whether other killers may have been involved. And that uncertainty keeps the mystery alive. Why were some victims wrapped in burlap, while others were dismembered? Why were remains found miles apart? Why did the killing methods differ? Were there multiple dumping grounds? Or did the killer change over time? Then there are the victims who remain unidentified. Jane does. Partial remains. A child whose identity is still unknown. Families somewhere are still waiting, still hoping, still wondering if their missing loved one lies among the unnamed. The Gilgo Beach murders are not just a story about a serial killer. They are a story about vulnerability, exploitation, and the people society often overlooks. Many of the victims were marginalized. Their disappearances did not spark immediate outrage. Their families were left to fight for attention. And for years, it seemed as though justice would never come. Even now, with an arrest made, justice is not guaranteed. Trials take time. Evidence is challenged. Cases collapse. And history has shown that even the strongest investigations can unravel. So the questions remain. Was Rex Hoyerman the Long Island serial killer, or only part of the story? Were there other victims who have yet to be found? Did law enforcement failures allow the killings to continue longer than they should have? And how many years did a predator hide in plain sight while families beg for answers? Gilgo Beach still looks peaceful today. The ocean moves quietly. The wind bends the tall grasses. Cars pass along Ocean Parkway, unaware of what once lay hidden just beyond the road. But beneath that calm surface is a history that refuses to stay buried. A reminder that some crimes are not solved quickly. Some truths take decades to emerge. And some cases, even when arrests are made, are still far from over. If you have a theory about this case, share it in the comments. And if you want to explore more cases that remain unresolved, subscribe to Unsolved Case Files, because some cases are still open. See you in our next episode.